Hi everyone, and welcome to my senior capstone proposal presentation. My name is Chaynah, and my topic is on the final girl trope as a social commentary tool in horror films. So a little bit about me. My name is Chaynah Coratibo. I graduated from my high in 2015 through their arts and communication pathway. I graduated from UH my college in 2018 with my associates in liberal arts. Took a break for a couple years and went back to college through West Oahu's creative media program, and I'm under the general concentration. So for this presentation, I'll go over my thesis statement for my research paper, objective and rationale, my plans for my senior project capstone, and address the significance of my research with my project. So my thesis statement is the evolution of the final girl trope in horror films reflect the influence of feminist movements, transforming her into a cinematic tool of social commentary that critiques patriarchal structures that form society's anxieties and fears surrounding female autonomy. My objective, my objective is I am a fan of the horror genre. Lately, I've been interested in how filmmakers use social horror films as social commentary, and I've also been interested in feminist theory. So these interests, I've decided to conduct research on horror films with the focus on the main female characters and more specifically the final girl, or the last character remaining in the end that is often a female character. And I wanted to look at these horror films through a feminist perspective. Um, the portrayal of women in horror films, a genre previously known for sidelining and mistreating women, has improved over the last few years. And to understand how and why that is to look into how women are treated in society. The efforts from the women's rights movement and the feminist waves has seen to address the discrimination, inequality, and violence that women experience, influencing how female characters are written, how the female audience engage with horror films, and also contribute to the increase of women in the film industry. So my plans for my capstone project is a video essay series with maintaining the focus on horror films through a feminist lens. Some of the topics that I've considered going over through my series is female representation in horror films in front of and behind the camera, comparing early versions of Final Girls from the late 70s to the modern version of Final Girls to demonstrate how much the trope has evolved. So, for example, Dracula 1931, how the character of Mina compares to modern versions like Grace from Ready or Not. Um, I also go over how horror films use mise-en-scène or the make of the scene to help convey the experience of womanhood. So how the characters are written, the costume choices, the setting, camera shots, everything. And I also be going over topics like the influence of film and activism have on each other. Also, I'll be going over the significance of my research with my project. So the first one is I wanted to kind of get rid of the stigma over horror films. Horror films are considered an art form and a safe space. And many people see horror films as cheap thrills with gratuitous gore and violence. These types of films, the quality that they have, influence this perception that is something to watch but not engage with, often dismissing its value. I wanted to acknowledge the wide range of horror films that is capable of engaging with the audience and exploring complex themes and societal issues. Horror films also provide a safe space to explore those themes, things such as anxiety and misogyny and like beauty expectations. And I also want for more recognition as an art form in the mainstream. A lot of horror films are not recognized in mainstream media because of the topics that they talk about. And it's because of like the societal norms and like the taboo that these films aren't acknowledged as much. The second significance is wanting to discuss feminism. It's a difficult, it can be a difficult topic to talk about. While we have come a long way as a society in terms of women's rights, there are still misconceptions of what feminism actually means, which makes progress in our society difficult. And I wanted to encourage discussion on the subject because it is it 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 affects a lot of people and want to recognize that there's more than one type. I think part of the misconceptions is that there's only one type of feminism. Um, and I want to acknowledge its applications, how it has affected us already in history and how it would affect us in the future, and the relevance of how it affects everyone no matter what gender you are. And not to like tell people how to think, but I want people to consider of using feminist theory when interacting with different types of media and approaching social issues. And third significance is making the invisible visible. So just as art imitates life, film reflects our society. Exploring horror films and how women are represented and treated over time shows how much society has changed and how we still have a long way to go. I wanted to recognize the importance of having women in front of and behind the camera and a call to action for a better representation for both. I also want to address the treatment of women in the industry and acknowledge the impact of diverse voices to tell stories. Through my research, I found this data chart. This one shows the percentage of women employed in major behind-the-scenes roles in the 250 highest-grossing US films from 2015 to 2021. So as you can see from 2016, the lowest percentage to 2021, within the 5 years, there's only an 8% increase. And the graphics below that, that breaks down the roles in 2021. Only 32% of producers were female, and only 6% of cinematographers were female. And these numbers show that the lack of female representation behind camera. And my project will also explore how much of an impact it has on female representation in films and also the film industry work environment. Um, My target audience for this project is horror fans, people who enjoy the genre, no matter how they consume them. If the type of topics that it goes over and like even the visuals. Um, I'll also be targeting film enthusiasts. So whether they're studying film or they just like seeing how the film is made, the analyses, the breakdowns. And I also want to target feminist scholars, so not just um, academics, but also people who are independently looking into feminism and want to learn more and engage more in feminist media. My proposed solution is by using horror films through a feminist lens, it introduces a different way to raise awareness and encourage dialogue on feminist issues and how we can improve as individuals and as a society. For my preparation and process of this project, first of all, pre-production, I'll be gathering equipment and content resources such as visual aids and music, find recording space, structuring and writing out the scripts for each episode. And to make sure that I am on track and on time, I'll also be setting a recording and upload schedule. For production, I'll be recording voiceovers for each episodes. I'll try to record in batches. And just for me, personally, I want to document the process in case I want to do something similar in the future to see what works and doesn't work. And for post-production, I'll be editing the voiceovers with the media content together, upload according to the schedule, and then promote them on social media. For my deliverable, for the essay series, I'll publish it on YouTube. The working title is Final Girls and Feminist Killjoy. Final Girls, referring to the horror trope, and feminist killjoys, which is in reference to Sarah Ahmed, who is a feminist writer and scholar. I'm looking into making each episode about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the content. So here I have the episodes just kind of tentative. So I'll be going over horror film in history and feminist horror as an introduction before I go into my analyses for movies. And then for promotion, I'll be posting it on Instagram. I'll be making graphic posts with episode topics, as well as editing down videos into short reels. And then I'll have the link of the full video. These YouTube channels is what I take inspiration from. Crash Course, Girl on Film, Every Frame a Painting. These ones are simple, quick, engaging, informative. They bring unique personalities that make them stand out, and they have an effective use of visual and audios for their examples. And that is all that I have for this presentation, and I will open to any questions that you guys have.